Hello and welcome. I'm Laurel Stewart, and here's what happened this week. What would you do in the event of a catastrophic emergency? Well, a new kind of civil defence drill is helping people prepare for exactly that. More than 1,000 people gathered in Tainan for the exercises that aim to include all of society. Rees reports.
Extinguishing fires after a massive explosion and rushing civilians to safety as a tsunami approaches. Simulations of disasters that pose very real threats to Taiwan played out in the southern city of Tainan at this new kind of whole-of-society civil defense drill. It's all part of President Lai Ching-te's campaign to better prepare the country for whatever comes.
我们目的是希望能够打造台湾社会的韧性，能够妥善的因应当大自然发生天灾地变的时候。
Over 1,000 people, a mix of civilians and civil defense experts, have joined the drills. But notably absent today is the military, which usually plays a big role in disaster response.
那主要是展现在地方政府及地方的民力，包括义警、义交这个民防，还有志工，他们对于发生灾难或者发生这个包括爆炸、包括海啸或是其他的复合性灾难的时候地方的因应状态。
One of the scenarios simulates an explosion at a tourist centre that injures hundreds of people, with much of the focus on response times and setting up medical infrastructure at short notice. More than just demonstrations, these exercises simulate real-life disasters, forcing the civilians taking part to improvise and act in real time, as if it was a real disaster. And the people joining these drills say participating is their duty as citizens of Taiwan, a country under constant threat from the forces of nature and China.
因为因应就是说有一些比如说灾难的时候，那医院可能没办法正常运作，那需要把一些民间的医疗人力那集中起来做一些统筹的规划运用。
因为我们就可能真的会面对战争的危险，当然是不希望有这种战争的发生，但是以防万一，大家全民就是要互相扶持这样子。
Officials say this will be the first of many drills happening across the country, as Taiwan does its best to prepare for the worst. Scott Huang, John Su, Jaime Okan and Rees for TaiwanPlus.
Civil defence drills like these are becoming more central to Taiwan's defence strategy. But what does whole-of-society defence mean? To find out, Jaime Okan spoke to Raymond Guo, a security analyst with the RAND Corporation.
So Taiwan is jumping fully on this idea of a whole-of-society defense. What does that mean, and why is it important specifically to Taiwan?
So whole-of-society defense is actually part of a group of concepts which we might call total defense. You see this in a lot of different countries. Israel is probably the most kind of iconic example, but you also have many of the Baltic states, Finland, Singapore, even South Korea to some extent. The idea is that you're a small country facing a really big potential aggressor. How do you marshal the resources in order to be able to respond to this? How do you create defense in depth, especially when you don't have that much territory, you're facing a much larger opponent? Also, I think very critically, to be able to protect and shelter your own people. And then also to keep continuity of government operations. So not just where is your leadership, will they be okay, but also can you keep the lights on so that your society can still function, maybe at a lower level, but can still function despite a massive conflict coming at you.
When we look at the way that Taiwan responds to emergency situations like an earthquake or typhoons, we do see the military play a very big role in these kinds of operations. What is the benefit of letting the civilian side handle these kinds of situations?
So in an event of a military conflict specifically, you want your frontline troops to be at the front line. You know, if let's just say it's an invasion, well, you want the conventional forces, your best trained military forces, to be, fighting back on the beachheads and pushing the invaders out. The more that the military has to divert its attention towards, say, things like civilian protection or logistics, the less it's able to kind of move the most skilled troops up the chain to be at the point of combat or points of combat. The more that reserve forces or civil society can take up some of these civilian protection, logistics and resources sustainment missions, the easier, the more the Taiwanese military can flow those forces to where they need to be.
And how does this help the average person in Taiwan who's maybe looking at this drill for the first time and wondering, what should I be doing in the event of an emergency?
Well, so it helps in a number of different ways, right? One is just if the bombs are falling, where do people go? Where should they go? You know, I don't know if I would be able to say, like, and I want to be clear, this is a really difficult thing. I don't think any country has ever had their civil defense system tested yet. You know, obviously major war, or I guess within the kind of the modern era. All the countries I mentioned earlier are still trying to figure their way through this. No one has a perfect answer. So at the very least, it's admirable that Taiwan is really kind of, the Lai administration is focusing and making this a priority.
That was Raymond Guo with the RAND Corporation. Police in Taiwan are on high alert as rumours swirl that one of the country's biggest gangs, the Bamboo Union, is getting ready to elect a new leader. The venue for the vote remains unclear, but one option was apparently inside the halls of power. John Van Trieste explains.
Tension builds outside the headquarters of the Chinese Unification Promotion Party. Dozens of police stand guard as news cameras roll. All are wondering the same thing. Will party leader and organized crime figure White Wolf show up?
我们在现场部署的60余名警力，我们针对出入大楼的人员进行相关的身份查抄。
With his support for Taiwan's unification with China and his underworld ties, White Wolf, real name Zhang Anle, is used to the attention. He's known for his high rank in one of Taiwan's biggest gangs, the Bamboo Union, and for his 10-year stint in a U.S. prison for drug smuggling. But there's a new controversy around him and his associates that has powerful people trading accusations and police across Greater Taipei on alert. Exactly what happened is unclear, but the rumor is that White Wolf and other bosses in his triad met Tuesday to vote for a new leader after their chief boss's death in February. The original venue, a restaurant inside the legislature. White Wolf himself says the gathering was for some old friends catching up, none of the rumored gang business.
大家老兄弟去帮主的事情有没有定案呢？没有。
The government abruptly shut the restaurant down for the day, forcing a change in location. But just the idea of a gang choosing its next leader inside the halls of power has caused an uproar. Some in the Democratic Progressive Party have accused Speaker Han Kuo-yu of enabling organized crime. But some in Han's party, the Kuomintang, say the restaurant is open to all. As that argument plays out, the questions become when and where the gang's election might take place. Police have spread out, but supposed plans have come out only to be cancelled more than once. So far, White Wolf has been silent, and the reporters gathered outside the headquarters of his pro-China party, hoping for answers, left disappointed.
本来今天就要澄清昨天的事，就你们今天这个阵仗他就不来了，亲生代的很不尊重他嘛，所以说他不可能去主导主联邦任何事情。
Police say they're still ready to pounce whenever the gang does hold a vote.
这个是挑战这个公权力。那现场如果胆敢宣布帮主事情，我们会现场做立即逮捕。那根据这个组织犯罪条例跟刑法，我们一定会采取最强力的一个作为。
But organized crime runs deep in Taiwan. In the roughly 70-year-old Bamboo Union gang, police face a persistent opponent. Andy Xue and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's biggest fashion event has begun, with this season's latest looks taking on a big issue: sustainability. Our reporter Sandy Chi was at the opening night.
It's a big night for Taiwan's fashion enthusiasts. Taipei Fashion Week Autumn-Winter 2025 has officially kicked off, giving Taiwan's designers the opportunity to show what they've got. With 6 designers unveiling their latest creations, all united by a single mission: to go from zero back to zero.
最关键就是要表达台湾希望，以时尚来分担这个世界公民的责任。就是说 ，endless 就是时尚无尽的意思，就是说我们希望时尚也是一个循环，时尚 不会只有造成地球的负担，而是每一个在这个过程消费时尚的人也参与了分担地球的责任。
So-called fast fashion has taken over the global market in recent years, thanks to cheaper clothing production. But with this rise comes serious challenges affecting all countries. In Taiwan, more than 80,000 tons of old clothes are thrown away every year, and of that, about 34,000 tons end up in incinerators. If stacked up, that's nearly the height of Mount Everest.
其实我这淘汰率，我自己觉得我自己淘汰率是蛮高的。我也不知道下一次的淘汰是什么时候，可能就是2个礼拜、1个月，不一定。
And so the average wardrobe life of my clothes, I would say maybe like 3 to like 7 years. Yeah, I try to mix and match, right? And sometimes, and I think I'm very careful with what I add into my collection, so I don't throw them away easily.
And to change that, this season's designs are all made using recycled material.
这次包含也用到就是工业废布，或甚至回收的服装去做成布料，所以它是从一个很有趣，就是已经是成品，然后又变成布料这样的过程。
But some designers say it's difficult to get the public on board with the idea of sustainable fashion.
现在就是回收的材料，其实它成本过高，所以在推行的时候可能还需要有一段的时间。如果说未来要做到量产的话，那以目前来讲的话，就是小批量的话可能问题不是很大，可是有些如果你要普及化的话，我觉得价格可能是一个问题点。
Other designers still have high hopes.
我觉得逐渐，大家也从很久以前的定制的这个习惯，慢慢又从快时尚又转到现在，大家也开始逐渐对一件衣服有一个更多的价值的认知，跟希望用收藏方式去拥有服装。
Endless fashion is continuing in the capital, with more runway shows and fashion forums being held until March 30th. Hang Xu and Tani Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Spring is in the air in Taiwan, and its iconic cherry blossoms are blooming up on Alishan. Visitors can see them via a special mode of transport. Tiffany Wong takes us there.
All aboard the Alishan Express. This 100-year-old train is chugging along the scenic railway in southern Taiwan, giving passengers a special view of the mountain's iconic cherry blossoms.
那其实简单的讲，我们是把我们的老爷爷火车头请出来，让他载送我们的旅客3趟。那所以它的运用，它不能像平常的一个交通每天运用。其实这个是很珍贵的火车头，所以我们大概只有在特殊的一些季节或是节日，我们才来使用。
Alishan is one of the most popular tourist destinations in the country, but the view from the tracks is not something everyone gets to experience. The cherry blossom train will only run 3 times this season, and it's a 6-hour journey up the mountain, but tourists say every second is worth it.
很新奇，然后那个樱花真的很漂亮，然后那个蒸汽火车在过弯的时候，那看出去，觉得然后再搭配风景，真的很壮丽，
玩不腻。 还是想来，来了10几次了，也是都会想要再来这边看一下，看它有什么变化。
The historic railway has been in operation since the Japanese colonial era. The carriages are made from cypress wood, and the steam locomotive was originally powered by coal, now modified to run on diesel instead. But maintaining the train is still difficult.
那其实修复起来非常困难，因为当初制作这个火车的一个设计这个火车的公司，其实已经都没有在营运了。那所以我们现在不管是材料啊，一些机具材料，其实都没有了，所以维修起来其实相当困难。
A relic of Taiwan's history, these trains have survived for over a century, and they're still running. And as time passes, they've outlasted those who built them and carried generations of passengers who have come to admire the view. Joseph Wu and Tiffany Wong for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching Here's What Happened. Finally, let's end today with more cherry blossoms, this time in Tokyo. I'm Laurel Stewart. Take care and see you next week.